Hi again, peeps. This is Sophia, the Dark Princess. Today I'm coming back at you with another vlog. This one's going to be a little different, though. I cannot really take any credit for the idea. I got it from Jerica's Autotransography, and I just inspired to give my life story. I'm going to call this The Makings of a Dark Princess. Anyway, so this is going to be a multi-part blog. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. It'll depend how long I want to ramble, and no doubt I'll ramble and be random. Um, but the first part is actually going to be my childhood, I'll say from birth up to around 8 or 9 years old. Um, so it all started, there was a sperm and it went into an egg. Okay, you all know that story. Everyone kind of has that same story. So I'll skip over that. Well, with me, my first memory is actually being in a crib and at the foot of the bed and hearing my mom snoring. What a amazing first memory. um, what happened during the first part of my life, my parents separated when I was really young. I believe I was 1 year old when they first separated, and my mom took me. We lived in a house alone. My grandpa would always see me, and it's my grandpa on my dad's side. Um, I remember playing in the sandbox with a helicopter, so I wasn't playing with any dolls then. So, um, and I just have so many swell memories there. Like I remember going to with my dad. Perhaps this is the beginning of my problems with my dad. Him taking me to a barbecue place. I had to be no older than 3, and ended up going home and ended up losing my barbecue all over my crib, and my teddy bear got covered, and I was just so sad. Um, but it got washed and cleaned. It was all okay. um, Really, during this period, I don't remember having any thoughts about being a girl or anything, mainly because I wasn't that familiar. I was kind of sheltered from the different genders, and I'm just so young, and obviously I was going through a lot with my parents separating. Even that young, I realized how painful it was. And finally, my parents ended up getting back together, and I remember us moving. I was probably, once again, around 3, 3.5. And my mom and dad got back together again. I remember losing and really missing my blue Smurf. I had a blue Smurf that winded up, and I found out it actually fell off the moving truck and got broken. I was really sad, too. I miss that blue Smurf. Um, so, anyway, my parents got together, and this was really the start of my really bad memories. And I remember being in my room, crying, playing with my toys, and my mom and dad just screaming at each other out there. Just screaming. I was just crying my eyes out in my bedroom. And I heard the wall get slammed with my dad punching the wall. And this happened almost every night. And every once in a while, my grandpa, once again, my grandpa on my dad's side, would come down, get me, take me over to my grandparents, and I have nothing but good memories with them. And it was a way for me to get away from them. And finally, see, the thing is, this period was so traumatic for me. I don't even remember my sister being born. That's how bad it was. She was born 5 years after me, so we're 5 years apart. And I do not remember it at all. I remember at my grandparents', at really anywhere, sleeping and having some of the most terrifying nightmares that a kid could ever have. I mean, not to get too gruesome, but I'll give you a few examples. I dreamt that I came home and the house, it was actually, I came home at my dad's house in this dream, and I couldn't find him, and the whole house was torn apart, and I got into the backyard and found their dead corpses outside. So you could say I had very morbid dreams, and it probably contributed a lot to my interest with the little darker things in life, mainly because I had to cope with that stuff in my life. I had to learn to embrace that, life can suck sometimes. And that was a way of me dealing with that stuff. I had dreams about my mom shaking me with red eyes, screaming at me. Gosh, I have so many nightmares. This one nightmare, it was a repeating one over and over again. I would be laying in bed and I couldn't move, and I'd hear and it would just get louder and louder and louder. And then someone would touch me and my heart would leap out of my chest and I would wake up just terrified. I had that almost every night. The only escape I had from that was at my grandparents', where I would lay by my grandpa and he'd put his hand on my heart to keep away the bad dreams. And it would always work. In fact, when he would remove his hand after getting tired at night, I would actually wake right up and tell him, no, put your arm around me again. And well, anyway, my parents had this battle for around when I was 6 years old. They finally separated again. And I went to live with my mom again with her parents on a trailer on her parents' property. And this was probably the first signs I had that there's something different about me, because I would put on plays where I would act out something, and I would always love getting my mom's bra and wearing it. And I knew I could get away with it because I was playing around, and they would watch my shows and they thought, oh, it's just so cute. Gosh, if they could see where that turned out. But yeah, that was probably my first signs that I knew something was wrong. I would still go to my dad's, but overall, I loved going to my grandparents. That was the one place I felt safe. During the divorce, my mom told me I'd never see him again, and that just terrified me. And so, no doubt, my nightmares kept on going on and on and on. And when I'd go to my dad, one of my favorite things was going over to the neighbor boy's house, and we would watch horror movies. I mean, we'd watch Freddy Krueger, Friday the 13th, probably about every horror movie made in the 80s. Now we're talking, I'm 6 years old. So yeah, see, things start making sense why I'm the way I am. But the funny thing is, that stuff did not give me nightmares. It was the true nightmare for me was my family yelling, screaming at each other, the long 8.5-year divorce, separation that happened. Yeah, it was a terrible time. And like I said, I didn't have much thoughts about being transgendered then, or something was really off, just the small things like wearing my mom's bra, mainly because I had so much other stuff going on. Well, my mom ended up winning custody of me. I was around 9, I believe. And I was ripped from my elementary school and taken to another school. And that was not a good time for me either. To put it in perspective, at my old elementary school, I had very bad anger problems. I mean, I got kicked out of preschool. Um, who gets kicked out of preschool? But, I managed to accomplish that. Basically, I don't remember much about it, but I was told that I would run through the classroom and knock all the kids' papers on the floor. In first grade, I was sent to the principal's office every day. And, it was around this time that things, you know, it was my way of coping with the trauma for my divorce. But I also noticed during this time, I started noticing the difference between girls and boys. And during first grade, my best friend was a girl. And in fact, I would play with her all the time. We would go outside during, basically, we went out to the playground and we would play stuff like ponies and stuff like that. I wasn't a big fan of playing with the other boys. I just didn't I just didn't have any interest in playing with the guys. I wasn't really into the rough and tumbles type stuff. Um, and and I was also having thoughts that, there's something weird about me and I wanted to change. And I, wasn't able to sift through it because I was still going through the divorce and everything. Like I said, I got ripped out in first grade, and in second grade, I went to a whole new school. That only lasted a year though, because then my dad won custody with the help of my grandparents, and I went to live with my grandparents, primarily because my dad was a deadbeat. The only reason he won custody of me is because my grandparents helped him win custody, thank God, because I loved my grandparents. Um, they did such a great job raising me. Um, and anyway, after that happened and things started settling down, was when I started realizing, I want to be a girl. And with that, I am going to close this off. So stay tuned for the next part of this story.